Remember the 2010s? When Doug Liman was directing Edge of Tomorrow and Jake Gyllenhaal was in back-to-back great films? How times have changed. Because these two teamed up to remake the classic Patrick Swayze film Roadhouse. And it's not good, but neither was the old one. But it had charm and heart and Patrick Swayze.
I think it's time for you gentlemen to leave.
And it can hide behind the 80s cheesy guilty pleasure excuse. The new one, however, has none of that. And it perfectly illustrates what's wrong with movies today. So before we talk about how bad the new one is, let's talk about how bad the old one was. Patrick Swayze is Dalton, a bouncer who gets hired by a businessman from Missouri to clean up his roadhouse from all the troublemakers who keep fighting there every night, scaring off the normal clients. This is the late 80s. No internet, no social media. Yet somehow Dalton is famous as this badass bouncer, and everyone has heard of him somehow, even in the middle of nowhere.
Dalton.
Oh my God. I heard of you. Hey, Hank, you know who that is?
Who?
Dalton.
Killed the guy once.
Little do they know, he's actually a pussy and is afraid of flying.
I've got your plane ticket right here.
I don't fly. Too dangerous.
So he takes the job and gets to Missouri, and we finally see the shitty roadhouse, named aptly, the Double Deuce. Then, 10 minutes into the film, and we hear the best line in the history of cinema.
What do you say you and me get nipple to nipple?
4 minutes later, an even better dialogue scene happens.
For $20, you can kiss him.
Are you kidding?
So right off the bat, we know this isn't exactly going to be The Godfather, but it's got Patrick Swayze in it. So in spite of the fact that it's got awful dialogue,
I wonder if somebody calls my mama a whore.
Is she?
bad sound design,
You asshole! What do you take me for?
and more height discrimination than the Tinder profile of a volleyball player,
I thought you'd be bigger.
Yeah, and I thought you'd be bigger.
For that line of work, I thought you'd be bigger.
there's just something charming about this film. Maybe it's the classic 80s anamorphic look that gets me nostalgic, with natural lens flares that would give J.J. Abrams an orgasm. Or maybe the fact that it's a 90s kid wet dream when it comes to cars. Or maybe it's the so bad it's good scenes that make this movie so ridiculous, like this random driving scene that seems to have inspired that old music video from the Cardigans. How these two guys are spying on the bar in a very inconspicuous and discreet monster truck. Or how Dalton's best friend comes to town and spends the whole night flirting with his new girlfriend in front of him, and it's supposed to be charming. Or how Dalton's signature move is ripping your throat out Mortal Kombat style.
Ripped his throat right out.
Or how this fat guy gets taken out by a polar bear falling in slow motion while he just stands there like a cartoon. It's a bad 80s movie with cheesy fights, cheesy action, and Patrick Swayze's charm carrying the whole film. Plus, you know it's old and outdated, so you expect it to have these things. And it's like when a cheesy pop song from the 80s makes it into your Spotify playlist. Maybe you would have hated that song when it first came out if you were alive back then. But you weren't, or you were just a kid. So now it's got nostalgia armor and you can't help but embrace its flaws. That's what this film is. So how can you bring all of this into 2024 and remake the film? Well, you have two choices. One, go the Jonah Hill 21 Jump Street route and make it a ridiculous comedy. Embrace all the cliches, try to make the jokes work in the 2020s and turn it into a parody of sorts. That's just designed to make you laugh. Two, make it serious, make it gritty. Take the original story and just make a serious drama out of it. Well, Doug Liman went with option 3. This film tried to have the cake and eat it too. They knew it was a ridiculous movie to remake, so they kept taking shots at it. But they started the film by making Dalton a really dark character right off the bat. This Dalton is a former UFC fighter who is basically homeless and just makes money by showing up to illegal fights and scaring off his opponents. To top it all off, he doesn't seem to want to live anymore. I don't hate this backstory. It's actually a realistic way for a bouncer to be notorious for being dangerous because people remember his UFC career, as opposed to people just randomly knowing of some bouncer from New York, like in the original film.
Dalton.
But starting this movie with a dark tone only to make it ridiculous later is a mistake. Either commit to the serious tone or make it a comedy from the get-go. This whole dance of gritty and parody is the movie's main problem. So the club owner gives him the offer, and this boss is actually an improvement over the weird guy with the ambiguous hairline from '89. Dalton gets to Florida on a bus, and the whole movie turns from gritty Jake Gyllenhaal drama to a Netflix movie with Adam Sandler. I don't know if he's about to beat up someone or if any of Adam's SNL friends are about to make an appearance on a jet ski. But don't worry, no SNL talent is about to appear in this film. We get something way, way worse.
That's where you're wrong, lad.
But we'll get to him later.
Hang on.
Before Jake gets to the actual roadhouse, he meets this smart little girl who runs a bookstore with her dad. Again, I don't hate this. It's a great way for the main character to meet someone he cares about early on, so the stakes can get higher in the third act. Fine. But the scenes they have together seem forced, and it seems their only real goal is to just remind the audience that this film is very self-aware.
Well, the owner's having a little trouble, I guess, and I'm here to clean it up.
That kind of sounds like the plot to a Western.
And to top it all off, it seems it's all been dubbed.
Local townsfolk send for a hero to help clean up the rowdy saloon.
Either they messed up recording the dialogue there and had to redub it, or they just changed the lines, but man, it's rough.
This is where we mixed Roadhouse. This is where we mix the audio for a film that's, destined for the big screen.
So from this point on, it seems they are remaking the first film scene for scene. You thought it was its own gritty movie with its own story, but it's not. The first fight happens. People see he's a badass. He meets the cute doctor.
No one ever wins a fight.
And they even recreate the Patrick Swayze ass scene. Only Jake is in his boxers and there's seemingly no thirst from the woman, so what was even the point of going shot for shot here if I'm not going to see some cheeks? Oh, never mind. Listen, I really respect Conor McGregor as a fighter and as an entertainer, and the fact that he became such a huge personality that his fame has transcended the sport he's in. But for the love of God, never put him in a movie again. He has the same deranged smirk on his face in every scene. He walks like a bow-legged crab with a testicle infection, and even though he's actually the only actual professional fighter in the whole cast, he somehow looks like the least intimidating one because he's just playing a ridiculous caricature. And yet he's pretty much the main villain, alongside some trust fund baby who's also supposed to be intimidating but isn't. I thought the villain from the original one was bad too. Just a short old guy who looked like a frog, but at least they spent a considerable amount of time showing that he was the boss in town. So in spite of him not looking the part, at least the script made sure to set him up as the untouchable, small-town villain. Here it's just him getting a shave on a boat and acting like a YouTube vlogger. Are we supposed to be intimidated by him? You get the point. The whole movie is like this. Then 1 hour and 30 minutes into the film, Jake puts his Nightcrawler cap on, delivers his Hulk speech.
It takes a lot to get me angry, but when I am, I just can't let go. I wish I could, but...
And then completes a GTA mission. Crash into the roadhouse, they fight. Dalton wins, but does he make out with the doctor in the lake? Nope. The movie pulls a fast one on you and Dalton just gets back on the bus and leaves. I don't want to go on and on about how they don't make movies like they used to. There are plenty of YouTubers and incel Redditors who have talked about this issue ad nauseum, but here is why Top Gun Maverick worked. They had a reason to make a new one. The technology to put small digital cameras inside the cockpit and have the actors react to real flight was finally available to Tom Cruise, so he decided to make a new movie about fighter jets, where they can actually show real flying. Sure, they used CGI to change the planes and enhance those scenes, even though they claim it's all real. But at the end of the day, those actors aren't in a studio, they are in real planes, and that's what motivated the existence of this sequel. On top of that, the movie is serious. It winks at the audience a couple of times, it pays homage to the old film, but overall it knows what it is. A serious action film with a couple of throwbacks that offers the right balance of nostalgia and modern filmmaking without forcing anything down your throat. They had no reason to remake Roadhouse. They had nothing new to add to the story, and they barely paid any homage to the old film. It's more like they sort of parodied it.
Told me it was a roadhouse, but she never told me the name.
It's just the roadhouse.
Oh, so no name. It's the roadhouse.
While also trying to insert bits and pieces of a serious, gritty drama. I'm not going to sit here and claim Doug Liman wasn't passionate about this project. Kudos to him. He took on Amazon to fight for this film's theatrical release.
Doug Liman says he's boycotting South by Southwest premiere of his Jake Gyllenhaal film Roadhouse to protest Amazon MGM bypassing theaters for Prime streaming release.
I literally did everything in my power to try to get this movie into theaters.
So his heart was in the right place, and Jake certainly worked and trained hard to prepare for this role. But this is a confused movie that doesn't know if it wants to be a parody, a gritty revenge film, or a scene-by-scene remake of the old one. It has none of the charm of the original film, and it's more like a cautionary tale of why sometimes it's better to just leave an old intellectual property alone and not feel the need to bring it into the 2020s just because it's a name people have heard of. As for Doug's fight with Jeff Bezos, Original Dalton said it best.
Nobody ever wins a fight.